What am I waiting for? I'm gonna be kind, I'm gonna be wise, I'm gonna open up my innocent eyes, I'm gonna be free, I'm gonna be strong, and have the courage to sing my song. I'm gonna give more than I take, and know the difference love can make, and live every day like it's the last day of my life. Oh, I'm gonna be kind, I'm gonna be wise, I'm gonna open up my innocent eyes, I'm gonna sing my very own song, and everybody can sing along. If we could all give more than we take, we could show the difference love can make, and live every day like it's the last day. What am I waiting for? What are you waiting for? What are we waiting for?
Beautiful, Catherine. Thank you. Always a blessing to hear your original songs. So many of you know our guest speaker because she is our Associate Minister, Rev Kathleen Flynn. Catherine is a spiritual director and a grief recovery advanced specialist certified by the Grief Recovery Institute. And we are so proud and honored to have our own Reverend Kathleen Flynn.
So this morning, Mending the Broken Places. This pandemic has a way of compounding what is. Adversity, whether it be health, relationship, finance, or something else, is amplified and complicated by circumstances of how we are living through COVID. So adversity occurs in everyone's life. No one gets a pass on adversity. No one escapes the challenges and the situations that might keep them on and eventually give them a leg up. The adversity we all face today, in the end, is more about how we handle it, the difficulties it is causing in our lives. And I want to share with you the elegant art of Konsuki. So that to start with today, I want to read you a story. And it is the story of Mending Broken Places. He sat in a corner of the workshop next to the window, in the place where he'd spent so many hours learning. Soki was not a young person like any other. Soki had the patience of an elderly man, yet a child's desire to learn. Soki's mind was racing with thoughts. His eyes were sparkling with hope, and his heart was galloping. He knew it was a special moment, but he needed to calm his body, his mind, and his soul. Chojiro watched him from a corner of the workshop, thinking young people are so energetic. But Soki was different. He was especially sensitive and extraordinary, had an extraordinary emotional strength.
I put it in slideshow.
Chojiro knew that before his eyes was his successor, a young man with the serenity of someone who had lived their entire life and the energy of someone who has their whole life ahead of them. Soki touched the clay with his eyes closed. He centered all of his attention on kneading the piece, feeling his fingers converge with the clay, the earth, nature, and art. With the piece in his hands, he felt that everything was possible, that any of the millions of forms that lived within this piece were waiting to connect with his hands. So he connected with each and every one of those possible forms, imagining them and feeling them. Little by little, he raised the walls of the bowl, thinking nothing, focusing his mind on the here and now. His whole universe was concentrated
Okay.
on his hands. In that precise moment, nothing existed but him and his bowl. He knew that beauty lies in simplicity and that the extraordinary does not require ornaments or flourishes. The results were an austere bowl. To Soki, the bowl was a projection of his soul, of his life, of his creativity and his liberated mind. The texture of the bowl was a journey through the history of his hands, the spirituality of his life, and his love for nature. Chochiro prepared the kiln for the crucial part of the process, the most complex, but also the most beautiful. Soki put the bowl into the kiln. Little by little, the piece changed color under the effect of the temperature. When the piece turned white, he gripped it firmly with iron tongs and lowered it into the receptacle filled with sawdust. The smoke and the flames of the combustion embraced Soki's bowl, blending into one, building and creating a new entity. Soki contemplated the entire process with the excitement of someone who is a direct witness of the birth of something beautiful and unique. He could barely contain his emotions. The time had come to remove the piece. Fire, earth, and air had drawn arbitrary and whimsical shapes, painting lights and shadows on his bowl. After so much time, so much dedication, so much patience, Soki could at least see the result of all his love and work. The truth is that it was so precious that Soki could not avoid trembling with emotion. A chill ran down his spine. He felt the cold breath of the ghost of fear, which made him shudder head to toe and from his shoulders to his fingertips, causing the piece to fall to the ground and break into pieces. Soki dropped the red-hot tongs, knelt down next to the piece, and remained still with a perplexed expression on his face. His hands were trembling. His eyes were filled with tears. He felt a hand on his shoulder. "Don't cry, Soki," said Chochiro. "But it's my life. How can you ask me not to cry?" "You are right to put your whole life and passion into this piece. Ceramics are beautiful and fragile, like life. Ceramics and life can break into thousands of pieces. Soki, that is no reason to stop. Keep alive all your hopes. Far from avoiding living, we must learn to repair ourselves from after adversity." Soki picked up the pieces and said, "The time has come to repair your dream. The broken pieces can be put back together again, and when you do this, don't try to hide your fragility, because your apparent fragility has become an evident strength. Dear Soki, it is time for me to teach you a new technique. I will explain the ancient art of Konsuki to help you repair your life, your dreams, your work. Go and find the gold I keep in the box. on the top shelf. Now, Chujiro was the first known Konsuki master in the 16th century, and Soki was his first student, his first pupil. So in Konsuki, there are steps to mending what is broken. Konsuki, the art of repairing our lives. Can we mend a broken heart? Konsuki, the word means golden joinery. It is the ancient Japanese art of repairing what has been broken. When a ceramic piece breaks, the masters of Konsuki repair it with gold, leaving the reconstruction highly visible intentionally. The piece becomes a symbol of fragility, strength, and beauty. People are like ceramics. So can we mend a broken heart? So there are steps to mending what is broken. And I'm going to leave the slide up because if we took it down, you would be looking just at my photo, not at me. So I think I'll just leave it up as I go through possibilities and offer the steps of Konsuki and how we might apply those as we recover from adversity. The Japanese word ikigai means finding purpose or direction, a reason for being. In other words, what gets us out of bed in the morning. The search for ikigai will bring satisfaction and fulfillment, connect us with giving meaning to life. Think about meaning in terms of yourself, your partner, your children, your soul. In this time of picking up the pieces, listen to yourself. Be silent and observe your thoughts. The sadness will help you find the courage you need. Pick up the pieces of your soul. Hold the pieces of your life in the palm of your hands and speak words of comfort, words of love, and words of meaning to yourself, to your deserving self. Step 2, analyze the situation. Take a look at what just happened. Reflect on it. Take time to understand without filters what happened. In all your authenticity, bring that event or that happening, that adversity back to mind and examine it. Asking yourselves some questions. A lot of times we just say to ourselves, what just happened and why? Then remember how you reacted. What were the consequences of the adversity? What did you learn about yourself? I want to share a story with you that my daughter shared with me a couple of weeks ago. It's really a COVID story. It's a pandemic story. She was sitting in line in her car at the drive-up at the bank. And there was a woman in front of her in her car, and it was seeming to take an inordinate amount of time. My daughter said she was just waiting and wondering what could be happening. And after that long period of time passed, the woman closed her window and put her car into gear to leave the terminal at the bank. Unfortunately, she put the car in the wrong direction. She put it in reverse and backed up and hit my daughter's car. Now, this is COVID. This is in Anchorage, Alaska. There are people wearing masks. And what do, you know, with social distancing at a time like this? The woman got out of her car to come and see what had happened. And my daughter got out of hers too. And she went and she said, you know what, Mom, it wasn't a matter of distancing 6 feet. It was a matter of seeing a woman who was so upset that I just put my arm around her. And she explained that she had lost her job since the pandemic, that the bank terminal just sucked up her card because it wasn't working right. And she burst into tears because she just backed into my car. And I held her and I assured her. I said, you know, my car is not very new anyway. There doesn't seem to be a lot of damage. This is not going to be a problem. I'm sorry for your story. I'm sorry for what's happening with you. But be at peace to know that this is not a time I'm not adding to what's already on your list. I'm not adding to your sorrows. And as she told me that story, I thought that is a real living circumstance, a story that paints a picture for all of us about what's happening to people during COVID. And as I kind of examined that for my daughter, as I reflected on the story after we hung up, I thought how beautiful it was that when we learn from what happened, we reach inside and pull out the compassion in our hearts, the place of love for understanding for ourselves and for someone else. I was thinking I was celebrating with my daughter that in that moment, on that day, in this pandemic, she held someone that was having such a rough time. She held them in her heart and in her arms and assured her that this would be okay. In fact, she said, you know, that's happened to me with my card. And what happens is you just call the bank and you tell them what happened and they'll help you. They'll help you return your card to you. So in the steps of mending what is broken, we analyze the situation. We learn from what happened. And most importantly, we must connect with our emotional strength. When we have everything we need to rebuild our lives, we activate the rebuilding of our emotional strength. And for me and for those in Unity, I am everyone, I believe, that involves connecting with your heart power. That's the engine that drives recovery.
Ooh.
Thinking about those who have, I'm going to just talk for a minute more about COVID, thinking about those who have lost homes in wildfires, people who have lost their family members to this disease, people who are separated from the aging, who cannot even visit except for by video, people who are food insecure with no jobs. I invite you to create emotional strength around those situations that require us to surrender to that which we have no control over and to open our hearts to what's next. Many of us will move into prayer for those experiencing devastating circumstances, because it is what we can do. Moving into our own heart space, mobilizing the power of our own emotional strength and transmitting that to others, holding for and with them their own emotional strength. Now, how do we build that emotional strength? I equate it to being, in a gym workout. And I want to share with you that yesterday I went to the gym. I'm privileged to have access to the gym at the hospital. All employees do, and the hospital has gifted that to us in this pandemic. It is not open to the public. It is open to employees. And yesterday when I went, it was, the whole gym was mine. No one was there, and it's a big gym with lots of equipment, many pieces that I haven't recently tried. So I did my usual warm up, and then I looked over at a couple of pieces of equipment and I thought, well, no one's here. No way I'm going to feel any sort of embarrassment if I can't figure it out. I'm going to use them. And it's been, I think, probably 20 years since I laid down on a bench with a crossbar. I put weights on it before I laid down, and I pumped weights. And it felt so good. It felt so wonderful, and I knew I was stretching myself. I was doing something that, yes, I'd done before, and I was reminding myself that I could do it again. And I expanded and I built my emotional strength the same way. So, repairing what is broken or mending what is broken. Fleeing from adversity, isolating ourselves, and falling into helplessness are not mending behaviors. Instead, analyze your inner dialogue, clean it up. Know that that's what you're telling yourself if you find or discover that there are better thoughts you could be thinking for your own recovery. And I encourage you to get help from a professional if you're stuck or getting no place on your own. See a psychologist, a counselor, a spiritual director to help you over the tough spots. Take a deep breath and find a way to treat adversity as an opportunity for learning. One of the hardest challenges that I ever faced, well, there have been many, however, was when I was in clinical pastoral education, which is totally devoted, a year devoted to figuring out what's inside you and what needs to be healed so you can be there for others in professional chaplaincy. We had a code acronym for it. It was AFLE. I'll translate 3 letters. Your imagination can fill in the 4th. Another blank learning experience. That blank was the initial F. A nice way to say it would be another wonderful learning experience. But we used to laugh and know that we chose this road and we chose this path and we were helping each other through it. Repairing what is broken requires finding a healthy outlet for your emotions. I could think of a few. The gym was always a resource for me. Walking, running, throwing a ball for your dog. You know what? The dog will love it and you'll really benefit. Turn to art or turn to music and learning. Avoid unhealthy behaviors or excesses such as overeating, overdrinking, smoking. You get the idea. You may have to make that commitment to yourself every day. Discover your creativity. Focus on recreating you, transforming you. So make your scars beautiful. And that is what Konsuki is all about, making your scars beautiful. You know, I saw a picture on the internet of a woman who had survived breast cancer. She'd had a mastectomy on one side, and she actually used the art of Konsuki over this area to highlight this scar, to make it beautiful. What matters is that you overcome the adversity. Think about former Senator Gabby Gifford. She's a great example of overcoming adversity. I believe it was 9 years ago that she was shot in Arizona doing a campaign effort out in front of a store. Her brain was injured badly. She recovered. She has had to learn to talk all over again. I heard her recently do a speech. She's one of my heroes. We can learn something from all our scars and transform them into something we can offer other people who are suffering like we did. Build a new reality. And in hindsight, I want to share with you that I built a new reality out of adversity. When my marriage ended in divorce 22 years ago, I thought my life was over. As it turned out, it was not. There was much about my earlier life that was beautiful. Children, family, grandchildren, friends, good and valued work. Yet the pain of my ending marriage was unraveling. I now know that since my marriage ended, it feels like I moved on to become what I ultimately came here to be. Supporting others at a time when their lives are unraveling. I have worked as a clinical chaplain and grief recovery specialist, helping others in crisis and picking up their pieces in helping them reassemble their lives, connecting with their emotional strength, mending what is broken, and celebrating the beauty of their scars. Had my marriage not ended, I am not fully sure that which I embrace now would be what I became. What scars have made beautiful in your life? Let's take time now to celebrate the beauty we create from our scars by taking time together in shared prayer. If you wish, close your eyes. Notice your breath, and then use it to travel to your interior landscape. Let your in-breath and your out-breath guide you there as you travel to your inner landscape. And breathe in again and breathe out again. Inwardly. And now notice where you lie. Is it your heart chakra? Or the power area of your vocal cords? Or the area in the back, in your back? Wherever it is, allow it to again for the sound of your breath. Adversity is not speaker is not working. Thank you very much. Thank you for the honor of speaking today.
All right, here we go. Music lives in me. It fills my heart and soul. It heals the pain I feel. And when I'm broken, it makes me whole. It takes me to a place outside of time and space. It fills my world with joy and sets me free. The music that lives in me. Music lives in me. It carries me beyond the babble of this world. And in the silence, it still plays on. It calms my every fear. As long as I can hear the angel voices that I know to be, the music that lives in me. Sweet music of the universe, was born with the stars and was shown